Hi, I'm Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates in Indianapolis, Indiana. And today I'm going to be speaking on the subject marriage counseling that works. If you're considering some marriage counseling, or if you've been putting it off simply because in the past you've had some really bad experiences, or if you've never been and you really don't know what to expect, you just know that it's expensive and it's going to be perhaps awkward and certainly painful to sit in a room and talk about such personal things with a stranger. So I just wanted to talk about our approach and how we work. So when you do come in for that first session, it isn't, many men think that marriage counseling is sort of a form of punishment, where if you've been really bad, you got to go see the counselor. And good marriage counseling is not about punishing and torturing men. It's not about assigning blame. It's about discovering who you are. And it's about lifting blame off of people. And it's about helping people not to feel as if they've been victimized. It's about reducing or eliminating bitterness and resentment. With our approach, the counseling really doesn't begin in earnest in the first couple sessions. In the first session, what happens is we spend time giving both parties a chance to tell their story. So if, let's say, the wife called in, I'll let the husband start, and I'll say, your wife called in last Friday and she told me X, Y, and Z. So let's begin this process by let me hear from you. What do you think the issues in the marriage are from your perspective? And then when he's done, then I turn to the wife and say, I know we spoke over the phone and you elaborated some issues, but here in front of your husband, can you tell me more? And we prefer that we get this section done, telling of the stories and finding out what the problems are. We try to get that done within 20 minutes. And if we have people that want to go on and on and on, then they're really not just giving me the factual information that I need. They're venting, they're triangling, they're dumping, they're blaming, they're shaming. They are punishing and elaborating too much. So in that case, I would cut them off and I would say, just answer my questions. And I might launch into a little speech about triangling, and triangling is venting to a third party. I tell them that they can triangle in the marital session. I just charge $1,000 an hour for it, and because it's unpleasant to be exposed to, and I never get anybody who wants to pay the $1,000 an hour. So, so we spend the first two sessions. After that first 20 minutes, we spend two sessions where we get a family tree out, a genogram. It's just a piece of paper with 3 generations on it. And I say, I sort of instinctively pick one of the two to start with. And I say, so, Joe, where'd you grow up? Are your parents both still alive? How old is your dad? What's his first name? And I just gather. I'm gathering information. I got to know about your father. I got to know about your mother. I really would like to know about your grandparents on both sides, and of course your siblings and your children, and any previous relationships that you were in or previous marriages. These are all very important parts of your life, and I need to get to know you. I want to know about your education, your job, your friends, your hobbies, your kids, everything there is to know. And you'd be surprised, we can usually cover that in 2 sessions. So right after a couple comes in and they give me the 20-minute spiel about what's wrong, I write on my whiteboard our process, and it's a 5-step process. The first thing is you have some issues that need attention, and you've tried various things and they haven't worked. And a lot of times I'll have couples say, yeah, that's us, we've tried, it ain't working. The second thing is an assessment, and that's just what I was talking about with the family tree. Any counselor that launches into therapy without spending extensive time getting to know you, they're practicing marriage counseling blind, and they're assuming that everybody's the same, and everybody is so different. Every person is so complex and so different, and their childhood experiences are so different. So the third thing is our feedback session, and I either do this for an hour and a half or 2 hours. If I have a couple that I think might be a little bit of dialoguing and debating, 2 hours. If I have just tons and tons of information, I'm going to need 2 hours. But for most people, we can get it done in an hour and a half. And I try to, keep the expenses lower. For a lot of people, that's a concern. So if I can do it in an hour, a lot of times I don't get all the way done, but I get most of the way done. We can just pick it up the next time. But in a feedback session, what we do is we sit at our computers and we study your family tree. And then we type up 2 or 3 pages of notes, and then we have a little psychological come to Jesus meeting. Not come to Jesus, I mean that as wake up and smell the coffee and look at your issues and be psychologically dissected in such a way that can be helpful to you and help you to gain some insight into who you are and why you're having the kind of marriage problems that you're having. Because you did not think that you signed on for this, what you're going through, whatever your particular struggles are. So the third or the fourth step in our process is working on the issues. And frankly, people, marriage counseling isn't something that you do for a month or 2 or 3. You're wasting your time. If you really want to alter your marriage, it's a lifelong process of work on yourself, and the therapy part of that is going to be every bit of 2 years, at least, if not 3 or 4. Because what we're trying to do is we're going to try to re-engineer both of your personalities from the ground up. It isn't give us a few hints and let's try to enrich our marriage. I don't run into that couple in my office. I run into people who are really disconnected, and one of two things have happened. With many couples, a bomb has gone off. Something unexpected, something out of character, somebody's had an affair, somebody's discovered that their spouse has a spending addiction. Somebody just wakes up one morning and tells you, I don't want to be married to you anymore. Unexpected, jolting, painful, shocking things do happen. And when the bomb goes off, people head to therapy quickly. And when they get there, I tell them this is normal. You've been married 10, 12, 15, 18 years, and very few of us are healthy enough emotionally to stay connected in a marriage for 50 years. The other thing that happens with couples is if a bomb doesn't go off, they run out of gas. So there are couples that are tamer, they don't fight, not a ton of passion in their relationship, nobody's had an affair, but they're just disconnected and really disconnected, and they just don't talk, and they don't make love, and they're bored, and one of them is thinking about having an affair, if not both of them. So we do try to normalize that you're right, your marriage is right where it's supposed to be for most normal people, like I said, they're just too broken and too unhealthy to live happily ever after. That's a myth. So when I launch into the feedback, I give my "We Don't Believe in Marriage Counseling" speech, and here I am talking about marriage counseling that works, but traditional marriage counseling is the, hey, let's the three of us brainstorm about how we can enrich your marriage. And it just doesn't work. It's based upon incorrect premises. And we tell people this isn't marriage counseling. What this is fix yourself, because you indeed are broken. You are dysfunctional. I had a fella in here this week, and he said he had no idea he was as dysfunctional as he was. I think he used some descriptive language that went with that, because he was just shocked at how clearly dysfunctional. What marriage does is it tells the truth on you, and it tears down your psychological defenses, and it will expose whatever is broken and dysfunctional in your life. And that is the genius and the blessing of marriage, that it will tear down your psychological defenses. That's how Mother Nature designed it, and that's the benefit. So, as I said, if you get a real clear perspective on who you are and where you came from and how dysfunctional you are, then you will commit yourself to what we call a process of recovery. And recovery is simply committing to doing the work on whatever issues that you have. Are you codependent? Do you have abandonment issues? Do you have a lot of shame? Are you overly defensive? Do you project your issues onto your spouse? Are you a workaholic? Are you a sexual addict? Are you a counter-dependent? Whatever your issue is, it's just copping to it and getting to work in a way that's effective. So I want to talk about what it looks like in the feedback session when it goes well. And it doesn't always go well. I'd say probably 80-85% of the time, people come away with a good bit of insight, and they feel like they've certainly gotten their money's worth, and they walk away with some additional thinking that they didn't have before, a tweaking of their paradigm. Stephen Covey said, if you want to change somebody quickly, change how they think. And that's what we try to do initially with people, because many times people come in and they are thinking in terms of maybe I married the wrong person. Maybe God has somebody else for me. This week I met with a young man who, after our session, he actually had an attorney's visit set up to discuss divorce. And in this process of shifting paradigms, I was very direct in saying, you got in your marriage exactly what you signed on for. It was pretty clear that your wife, was who she was. And the pain that you have, the pain that you're experiencing from this relationship, it's really not about her. It's about you. It is about you. It is about your broken childhood. And ironically, the worst thing you could do is ditch the marriage and go try to find somebody new, because there is nobody new. The person who's new is going to be old, because they're going to be another version of the very same person. You'll just have half your money and your kids half the time. And your life is going to be a lot more complicated, but you're going to have to struggle with the very similar issues that you had in your first marriage. So what I see in people that get it is I can see it in their eyes. And they're just going, like that. They're a little bit stunned, and their tone changes from being victim-y and pointing the finger at their spouse, and it shifts to sort of an excitement about having a new epiphany. So another fella who came in not long ago was just filled with rage. and he sort of had a crazy look in his eye that worried me. And he grew up being horribly abandoned emotionally by both parents. And when you're really abandoned as a child, and I don't mean your dad, ran off and you never saw him again. You can be abandoned when he's home every night. If he's sitting there drinking, then you have been abandoned. Or if he's off at work till 10 o'clock at night, you have been abandoned. So, marriage being what it is, and relationships being what relationships are, of course this fellow managed to find not one but two separate women in his life, the history of his life, who abandoned him in just wicked, horrible, worst case scenario ways. But in the first session, I told him, dude, that's why you picked her. And she's not your problem. She's actually the biggest part of the cure. And I could just see in his eyes major lights going on. And that's a beautiful thing when that happens. I had another woman that also had an appointment with an attorney, and she was going there right after our session, and within 10 minutes she was what I call in recovery, and her spirit was soft and sweet. And the session began with a lot of judgment and criticism and irritation and contempt. And it ended with her heart being soft and sweet and vulnerable and beautiful. And they certainly did a lot of work, and now they're very happily married. And there is a fresh beginning in their lives. But it all started with the paradigm shift from my spouse is the problem to I am the problem, and my wounded, dysfunctional childhood is the problem. There are folks that don't tend to do well with this process. I'm not going to lie to you about that. In the Bible, there's a verse of Scripture that says, "Do not strongly rebuke a mocker, lest he hate you." And a mocker to me is somebody who's defensive, they're victimy, they're bitter, they're resentful, they're reactive, they're highly defensive. And the problem with our work is that's our job, is to strongly not rebuke, but give feedback to anybody who comes in and asks. So if you come in asking for help with your marriage or help with your life, we're assuming you want the truth and you want feedback, even though a bigger part of you maybe doesn't want to hear it. So, we can use scalpels or we can go out back and get the jackhammer, either way, but we don't back down. We don't pull punches. You will be told what we see, and if you don't like it, we're going to keep saying it until you flee the building. And we'd rather not have people flee the building. It's not good for business. But we chase a lot of people out of the building simply because you're there to find out what's true. And if you're set on blaming and shaming and beating up and punishing your spouse, you're clueless. You're missing the point. You're in the dark. And we will refer you back to yourself and your childhood. And if you don't like it, flee the building. Because it's the truth, and it is what can save your marriage, and it can save your life, and it can give you new direction in your life, and meaning, and fulfillment in relationships. So that's a process of recovery, and in recovery, we invite people into community, and we have therapy groups Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, and some nights several 2 or 3 groups running on some of those nights, and in group. You will hear other people's stories that will instruct you. You'll get feedback. A lot of the people that I have in group are very insightful and very knowledgeable, and they give really excellent feedback to each other. Coming to counseling at Family Tree Counseling in the first year or two is like being in school. We will have you read a lot of books because we have a lot to teach you about so many things, about abandonment and shame and codependency and counterdependency, and how to set boundaries, and you're not a victim, and you married your parents, so there's a lot of books to read. And it does take time. I have people that have been slugging away in their marital work and in their individual work for a couple years, and you got to grade on curve, because it's not where you're at, it's where you started from. And the process will make you much more open-minded, much more open-hearted, much more sensitive, much more insightful, much less defensive, much better able to listen and not project your issues onto the other person. It'll make you a better father, a better wife, a better mother, a better husband, a better sibling, a better employee, a better businessman, because you're healthier and you listen better and you know who you are, and you don't have to walk around pretending and defending yourself. So that's marriage counseling that works. If you've been to something that doesn't work, give us a call, because if you are motivated and teachable, if you have enough pain to keep the process moving, but it's not victim-y pain, if you trust us and trust the process, and if you do the homework, we can perform almost absolute miracles. So give us a call. Check out our website, familytreecounseling.com. We're also available through Skype anywhere in the English-speaking world, and we can work with you through Skype. So join our channel on YouTube, Family Tree Counseling, and thank you very much for watching today.